more that you can lean into your own personal discomfort, say what needs to be said in a non-offensive way, the more you make the world a better place.
And good afternoon, social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram. Welcome all to Jumpstart Masteries Live at 5. I'm Andy Prisco, and I'm coming to you from Walla Walla, Washington, where the state penitentiary lives. It's been here for a very, very long time, and also the training unit for our State Department of Corrections has a facility here where we are working with crisis negotiation team members, training and development unit instructors, and officers with designated crisis response duties from facilities throughout the state coming together to discuss this topic that we're going to be talking about right now, the art of being heard. Welcome all. On Tuesdays, our lives are oriented toward everyday people who are interested in better communication skills, perhaps learning a bit about de-escalation should they ever have to engage in that kind of activity within their family or their neighborhood or community. And on Thursdays, our lives are oriented toward professionals in the field who are working in a job class or carry responsibilities to respond to other people's emergencies. Welcome, everyone. One of the reasons I speak the way I speak, because I get a lot of comments, both on social media and personally, about the way I articulate myself, was driven by a desire to be heard. The motivation to be heard can animate someone, and it certainly did me, to learn more about language so I had more capability and capacity in getting my message across. Perhaps some of you saw the funny video I filmed with Jack Cambria the last time we were together in a restaurant, and the theme to The Godfather is playing, and I asked him, "What's the secret to crisis negotiation, Godfather?" And he says, "My son, one word: listen." And he's right. There is also something to be said about reducing the things I can do in my communication that would interfere with the message that I want to send. This is, in my view, the most meaningful. I have splinters from a toothpick on my tongue. This is the most meaningful goal of crisis de-escalation, is to become acutely aware of the things in communication that can interfere with being heard. What might those be? All day, we spent drilling in these ideas I'm about to talk about with professionals who cherished the learning approach that we embrace at Jumpstart, because we have drills to build skill around this. But if I communicate about, let's say, in my desire to be heard, I communicate something that lets someone else know that their goal is going to be blocked or that their expectation is going to be violated. If I speak in such a way where my message is clear that your goal is going to be blocked, your expectation is going to be violated, you can rest assured they're not going to hear anything else after I level those pieces of information. If I say, "Hey, look, what you're doing here is not going to work out, and you better find a different way to engage with me if you want to go somewhere." What we know from the research on anger and interpersonal neurobiology, and we studied this with monkeys with fruit when we were comparing monkeys that like cucumbers, while all monkeys really like grapes. Almost all of them like grapes more than cucumbers. We learned in the research that if you are giving one monkey a grape and another monkey a cucumber, and he sees that that other monkey is getting a grape, and is hitting the prompt to get the grape and only gets cucumber, we can animate that monkey to anger because that monkey wants the grape. Now, you could argue, well, the monkey must have an innate sense of fairness, and in the abstract, that may be true. But here's what's absolutely going on. That grape that you want is not available. The goal that you have of getting that, the expectation that you have of getting that is going to be blocked. And we could repeat this over and over. We do things in our language by habit that is not born from any malevolence, but it's absolutely born from a lack of understanding of what makes the nervous system of another human being non-receptive. And statements like, I need you to, or you need to, prefacing some kind of directive or opinion or preference, is very much another habit that we have that will reduce your potential for being heard. You're doing things with those statements to someone else's nervous system that lets them know that what you're doing is not acceptable and you need to change. You need to change. You need to back up. You need to watch your language. You need to change your tone. You need to respect me when you talk to me. How does it generally feel when you're met with that? Now, you may be doing it from a place of love. Hey, honey, you got to speak to me with some respect in this house. I'm not saying you're wrong. What I'm saying is that any message to the nervous system that lets them know a goal is going to be blocked, an expectation is going to be violated, you're not acceptable, anything that instigates a sense of discomfort that someone wants to race past and avoid, you won't be heard. So what is the art of being heard? It is languaging yourself in a way that reduces or otherwise eliminates the things that interfere with being heard. And what we've come to believe and understand in how to be heard is to, of course, as the great Don Cambria says, listen. Listen intently, fully. An extraordinary amount of information is received when truly listening. Truly listening is not waiting for an opportunity to be heard. Listening is listening. The art of being heard is different. The art of being heard is applying that listening and forming your message in such a way that you eliminate the things that will interfere with being heard. What are those things? Blocking a goal, violating an expectation, causing someone to feel out of control of their agency, causing someone to feel concerned for their safety, causing any stimulation to their nervous system that suggests you are a risk. When I want to be heard, I must present in such a way that I am no risk or threat to another human being. And it doesn't mean that I'm abdicating, I'm letting go of my own sense of personal safety or power. It just means that I'm not verbalizing it. I may be in control in the matter where I need to be heard. Let's say I have control of the door. I have the keys. Let's say I am the one that has access to the thing that somebody is requesting. I may have control. Why would I verbalize that I'm the one who's going to decide? Most of the time when people do that, it's because they feel insecure and they start speaking in soliloquy. Well, I'm the one in charge here. You're not clear about this. You don't know what you don't understand how things work here. I'm in charge. I fund things. I control the keys. I own the vehicles. Why would I verbalize that? What is the utility of that? The person likely has not forgotten. It's been my experience that most people verbalize that when they're feeling out of control of the situation. So, what are some strategies to be heard? Well, after you're done listening, let someone know that their message was heard, that it was seen, heard, and understood completely. Listen attentively, and that your first statement is the feedback that they were heard in all its totality. And you can derive ways to say that they were heard from the 6 levels of validation. You could use active listening skills. You could call it mirroring statements, but you're going to have to let them know first that they were seen, heard, and understood. And then the next thing to do is to find some kind of common ground that reframes the interaction away from conflict and toward collaboration. We have to point to some kind of shared value or a rule that oversees this misunderstanding or conflict. Something that is in the world that's brought into the moment, like a value that is motivating the discussion: respect, duty, wellness, home, well-being, safety. There's 100 shared values that you could think of. And then following your presentation of those two, it might be time at that point for you to be heard. Would you be willing to listen to what I have to say about this and share my opinion? That way, positive prompt, we might have deeper understanding with one another. Here's what's not in my reply after I've heard someone. I need you to statements, should statements, statements that are pre-contact cues, as Tony Blauer would say, because of the way I inflect my voice. However, but those words let someone know that right after them, a goal is going to be blocked or an expectation is going to be violated. So if their limbic system were a fire, it's like taking gas and spritzing it on there. Here comes the bad news. So the art of being heard eliminates certain isms that have found their way into Western language. We don't use those. And this is the same message I gave a classroom of crisis negotiation team members and crisis responders today. They understand this. They understand this because they're constantly dealing with people that can present anger and aggression. They've come to learn this. They also know that there are times where they have to articulate what the rules are and they have to enforce them. So how do they do that while avoiding conflict? Well, the same things that I'm telling you right here. We're languaging whatever is going to happen or what we're going to do in a way that enables our message to be heard. Look, I hear you using racial slurs, and I can see that you're very, very angry. Racial slurs are incendiary and not something that is supported here in this setting. If you use safe, non-offensive language to communicate your anger, I'm more than happy to sit here and listen to you and try to support you in getting to the bottom of your problem here so you can solve it. There's no judgment in that string that I just gave. There's no condemnation. I let them know, here's what you're doing. There's a rule that states that that kind of language is not supported. I've suggested that they communicate their anger without violating the rule. That way we can solve the problem. They may push back on that and say, F you, and then continue talking that way, in which case they're going to be met the same way. Looks like you're really angry. I can only imagine how angry you are. And maybe somehow you feel frustrated over the rule, which I can get. I can understand that. Safety is really important. Avoiding an activation of the emergency response system and getting a whole crew full of people here to deal with this is undesirable. How about you just tell me what it is that needs to happen here in order for you to get your need met? That way we can work constructively toward the goal. And again, I just went through that string, letting them know they're seen, heard, and understood. There's also this thing over here that we have to deal with. How about suggestion? That way, positive prompt. The art of being heard is the art of listening and speaking in a way where we're not animating someone else's risk circuitry to interfere with my need to be heard. I need to be heard. I have needs just like this person in crisis does. I have desires just like this person in front of me does, who's in conflict. I want to be heard. I don't want to be misunderstood. So over the course of my youth, I'd say, I became very interested in lexicon, words, ways of communication, so that I had a lot of options. And what I've come to understand as I age, and I'm approaching 58 rapidly, the game of being heard is the game of me not getting in my own way. I can't control the barriers that the person may have. They may have the onboarding of some biological substance that's interfering with their ability to receive auditory information. They may be living with some kind of characterological issue or trauma that restricts what works well with them. I can't see those things. All I can do to optimize my success is to not do things that make conditions worse. And that I can regulate. I can regulate what I choose to say and what I choose not to say. So those are my thoughts on the art of being heard. I think it's more important to listen, but you can't get away with the responsibility, if the service of the conversation is to truly acquire mutual understanding. Not only do we have to listen, we have to communicate in a way that doesn't make it worse for the other person, and to the extent that my message gets lost, because all they see is my condemnation, my judgment, my anger, and I have to deal with that. Just because someone is animating themselves in a certain way doesn't make it okay for me to be angry back. Then no one's going to hear anybody. That's what we're trying to avoid. Thank you for joining us on this live and for this opportunity to be with you. And we'll see you on Thursday at jumpstartmastery.com. Stay tuned to our LinkedIn page. We're going to be sharing some interviews and pictures from here in Eastern Washington and lovely Walla Walla with the Department of Corrections. Take good care.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
More that you can lean into your own personal discomfort, say what needs to be said in a non-offensive way, the more you make the world a better place.